All right.
That's good.
So tell me, first of all, what were the biggest challenges for your health that you were facing before you came to talk to me?
I think the biggest issue for me when I contacted you was a lot of congestion, respiratory issues, especially in the morning. I would wake up terribly congested, and I went through so much Kleenex before I even started my day. And I was aware that I had some food sensitivities. I had become more aware of that over the years, but it was just so hard to identify which foods were bothering me. So that was a big issue, probably the most obvious issue for me. I also had pretty extensive osteoporosis, and so I knew that was also a something that I could address through nutrition. So those were probably the two biggest things, biggest issues I had when I came to you.
Any other symptoms that you were experiencing at that time?
I had had some digestive issues over the years. I had made some improvements, but that would probably be another factor. Aside from that, I think those were the primary things that I wanted to address.
Okay. And what had you tried before? What different things had you done to try to resolve this issues?
Well, I had worked with a variety of chiropractors over the year. I found traditional Western medicine was really not helpful with addressing the food issues. I just didn't find that they knew enough about it or knew how to address those things. So I had worked with chiropractors who had some knowledge of nutrition, and they helped me to some extent with identifying the foods. Most of their testing was muscle testing, which I found to be not real reliable, not real consistent. So I think it had helped me identify some of the major foods that were causing me trouble, but not some of the smaller or things that I wouldn't really consider. I had some real surprises when I went through the testing with you.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell me in your own words, and I know from my side of it, what the process is like. Tell me what the process was like for you in changing your diet.
Well, first of all, it was, we connected by phone. I did not have to go anywhere or, meet you anywhere. We did it all by phone, and you interviewed me initially to see what my issues were. And you determined that two things in particular would be helpful. One was a food sensitivity test. The other was would test my cells to see what supplements might be helpful. And so you had test kits sent to me. I went to a lab to have blood drawn. When the results came back, I received the results and you received the results. And then we started a series of phone sessions where you explained the results to me, and then you helped me identify the foods that had the greatest effect on me. And we went through a process then of eliminating those initially. And then, over the weeks, those were added back in, and I kept a food diary to see how I responded to the elimination, but also then to the additions. And we got to a point where I was doing well, and I had enough of a variety of foods in my diet to proceed. One of the things you helped me with that was, I would say, a surprise for me and tremendously helpful was once we identified the foods that I could eat, you looked for recipes that included those foods. And like, for one thing, I reacted to onions, and you told me to try scallions, and I'm still using those. And I've noticed if I have anything with a lot of onions in it, I still react, but I seem to do fine with the scallions. So just simple things like that, but you had the knowledge and the expertise and the resources to identify recipes that I could use, and I'm still using those to this day. They've just been really helpful.
Wonderful. What changes did you notice in your health and the symptoms you were having after you made these diet changes?
Well, the congestion cleared up. That has been wonderful. I haven't had those issues. I would say I have more energy. And I'm sleeping better. And then because of the improvements in those areas, I think I started having more of a desire to exercise and do other things that would help improve my health.
Okay. And what helped you most in our work together?
Certainly identifying the foods that were the biggest culprits for me. Your understanding all of the information that you have when I would ask you questions. If you didn't know the answer, you did some research. Again, I think finding recipes that worked for me that was really significant for me. And again, just identifying the foods. There were some real surprises. I think probably one of the biggest things for me that was causing congestion was I was eating, what I thought were really healthy foods. Typically, we think of them as healthy, like I was having a salad every evening. And when I did the blood testing, it turns out that all of those greens did not agree with me as well as I thought they would. And once I eliminated that evening salad, I think that made a big difference. And I think you taught me so much in the process. Like I was adding beet powder to my smoothies, and beets were, one of the things I reacted to. And you explained to me that when you use it in that powdered form, it's that much more concentrated. So it would probably cause more trouble than just eating the beets themselves. So things like that. And I think you helped me learn to simplify things. And once we eliminated the foods that were the biggest problem, now if I react to something, it's pretty easy for me to identify what the food is. Like the blood tests we didn't necessarily test every food that's available, but it tested the most common ones, I think. And so now when I have trouble, it's just so much easier to identify what I'm reacting to.
Mm-hmm. Anything you mentioned before, some surprises, anything else that you can think of that was surprising about the results or the process?
Yeah, I think many of the foods that I reacted to were a surprise because, again, typically you think of them as being healthy foods, and even like some of the food colors, some of the supplements, pain relievers. I know it tested like acetaminophen, things that I would not have even thought I might react to, and I did. So I think just some of those results surprised me. And then when I was tested for the, my cells and the supplements, finding out what I was deficient in, that were kind of surprising as well, and helped me get started on some things that have been beneficial.
Mm-hmm. How is your diet now in comparison to early on when we started working together? Have you been able to incorporate most foods back in? Does it feel restrictive at all?
It does not feel restrictive to me. I think I've probably adapted, and I feel so much better that eliminating some of those foods really has not been a problem for me. I just feel so good that I'm really quite happy with the diet that I have. And, certainly there are some foods I've eliminated, but I feel like I have a good variety and I have enough foods to choose from. So I feel like I really am feeling better. I think I'm healthier than I've ever been in my life.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Yes,
That's cool. That's very exciting.
Great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So would you recommend it? Would you recommend, our work together, but also the food sensitivity work specifically? Do you think that's a good experience that you'd recommend to others?
Absolutely. And the people who recommended you to me said that working with you had made such a difference in their lives. And I continue to see them being really healthy, doing better than they did prior to working with you. And that's my experience as well. So I have recommended you to other people. One of the things I would say, and this may sound a little bit odd, but I had suggested that my sister talk with you because she had some health concerns, and she did. But in assessing the situation, you thought she was doing quite well as far as the foods were concerned. And so you didn't think it was necessary for her to go through the same process I did. So I really appreciated your honesty in that way. And again, the research that you do, and to this day, as you know, I periodically text you with a question. And if you don't know the answer, you research it and you get back to me. And I just find that, the research, the scientific approach, very helpful, and I feel confident in trusting the information that you give me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or any?
I think one of the things I appreciate, you send out emails regularly just to educate. I appreciate those. I found those really helpful and educational. And I know that I think once or twice a year you make a cleanse available to people. I haven't been able to do that. We've often been traveling when that was available, but I think it sounds wonderful. And again, I appreciate just your understanding of how our systems work and what's good and healthy. And I hope one of these days I can take advantage of that opportunity as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the time to do this today. I really am grateful.